Man, it's been a while since I've checked on the Minecraft community. I wonder what they're doing.
Dude, fish eye is so stupid. Like, I can literally drain this whole pond and they'll just start dying. It's actually crazy. Like, just look at them. And then, what? What the? Yeah. Oh. Well, damn. Oh God! Ah!
Y'all know Minecraft, the game where you can make whatever you want. This of course resulted in a bunch of fan projects from servers and mods to builds to even running Doom in Minecraft. It's crazy the things the community has made over the years, which includes stories. The main and oldest way people told stories in Minecraft is through role-playing. Caveman films or Dan TDM's modded adventures being great examples of classic roleplay. The most successful roleplay, however, is the Dream SMP. Despite the controversies that happened, and if you think it was good or not, you have to admit that it had a big impact on the community, evident by what the fans were making. You got people making SMPs trying to be the next Dream SMP, or just injecting roleplay aspects to their friends-only servers. Even I and some others tried doing this with my high school server. I love living in isolation and calling it lore. I also have a secret library. Ignoring the lockdowns, the reasons why the Dream SMP got so influential is because of the roleplay aspects and being generally planned in combination with having multiple creators streaming their perspectives, being and acting as their own characters with a script, which was a generally new concept at the time. But that formula has been repeated many times with varying success, which brings me to the reason you clicked on this video: the needed evolution of scripted content. WhitePine was created by Ivory TV, and if they don't sound familiar, they used to go by the tag Myth or Doc, and they did escapist videos like Poseidon's Vault, Pandora's Vault, My Basement Vault. They worked on WhitePine for almost 2 years by the time the first episode was uploaded. Ivory also made this in collaboration with other creators, some of them you might recognize from Lifesteal like Prince Zam or Redunes. This series was also made with mods, a custom map, and even an original soundtrack that she allows others to use and you'll hear throughout this video. This series is the most impressive project I've seen in a while from the community, and I recommend watching it if you haven't already. And before you continue, there will be spoilers in this video, obviously, as I will be talking about the production quality put into different areas like characters or settings up to episode 6. And I won't be talking much about the supporting lore content as I haven't watched any and I plan on doing so after making this video. I also won't be talking much about the story itself. Post-production Emerald here, and I would like to say that I made most of this video before episode 7 came out, at least all of the recordings and such and half of the edits. So I'll be talking about episode 7 after this video plays as is, and I might jump in here and there just to talk about things relating to episode 7. Back to the video. Now, let's talk about the environment and setting. The setting and environment are very important to immerse the audience into a film or series, so you need to make sure that they immerse the viewer well, or the viewer will be wondering why the heck the world is round. WhitePine does a great job with its locations and environments by making them feel alive by having either players or NPCs walking around the different areas. They also use the architecture and culture of the environment to imply that the era it takes place in is inspired by 1920s United States, which was later confirmed when Redunes mentioned being in a war along with Clown Pierce. Eat lead, Germans! He had to have done PvP somehow. I also love the use of shaders. It just feels a lot more immersive and helps set the mood for the individual scenes, like the dining room or going into town. The use of mods, data packs, and texture packs are also present to add to the environment, with a big one being motion capture, which is what allows them to show so many people in the towns and maybe even in the mansion without having every single person need to be there. A cool data pack used is one called Solar's Block Display Vehicles, which basically allows you to build your own cars, and how WhitePine utilized it is pretty dang cool since all of the cars resemble the ones from the 1920s, like say the Ford Model T for example. Another mod used, and this one's my favorite mod, the Create mod. You get to see for things like the train at the start of the series, the seats in some areas in the WhitePine estate, and even for some doors to add some extra detail. I do however feel like that the Create mod should be more utilized. Like, I feel like the WhitePine estate needs a defense system based on the fact a murder happened. So I propose they install this. Behold. I wouldn't say the setting is an evolution since it's more so stylistic choices and doing what it needs to do, but I do find the details are. The amount of detail and how they are utilized is amazing, since they make different scenes feel alive when in places like the town than in places like the WhitePine estate. The details are used to help with the environmental storytelling, like V's room being messy to show they've been neglected. Overall, the setting does a really good job of what it needs to do without being unnecessarily distracting from the story, with my favorite sets being the town and the forest, as well as the bedrooms since they reflect the characters that reside in them. Speaking of which, characters. The things stories would need, or you might as well watch Concrete dry. Yep, this sure does stimulate the pancreas. There is a larger cast of characters in this series, but luckily for me, most of them are background side characters, at least for now. So I'll talk about the ones that have an impact on the story so far, or I just find interesting. The obvious one to start off with is the protagonist, Ivory. Ivory is portrayed as an anxious woman and a literalist, meaning that she takes everything literally. Minute? I think I know what a literalist is. Oh, I thought you were illiterate. What does that have to do with anything?
Realities after disappointment, Mr. Pierce.
Oh shoot! Who are you? Freaking Elmo? I don't want to go back to Elmo's world. Please leave me alone. Please!
Let's learn the ABCs.
She's also a quiet introvert and she makes sure whatever she does is okay, usually asking for permission to do things like going outside or having to be told what is okay to do, like eating lunch. She shares a dorm with Sir Raptor and helps with dusting and cleaning in the interior of the estate. A day after she started, she and the other staff got traumatized by the mangled corpse of one of their co-workers, Mysticat, near the entrance. This of course caused everyone to get brought to the police station to answer questions from the detective to help an investigation into the matter. When it was Ivory's turn, the detective became suspicious of her for not showing much sadness or shock from the death of a coworker, which is really shown in later episodes, especially episode 6. Also in episode 1, we learn she can play the piano and she shows interest in the forest out back, and in episode 2, she told the detective she was found in the woods by Minitech, but she also mentions she likes to walk in the woods, but at the same time, it was mentioned people go missing in the woods. You can't use this as evidence, Wiki! Soon after, she replaced Mysticat as Pyrocythe's personal servant, doing things like going with him to meetings, getting his bath ready, and getting him oversized bread. You know, the usual. Not much is known about who she was or what she was doing before she was hired, although the wiki does say she likes to follow the rules. I just think it's funny in isolation. Hello. Is this about the canon? Ivory makes a great protagonist since she retains intrigue with her mysterious background and unique behavior, contrasting her from the rest of the cast. Another thing that makes her a good protagonist is that her lack of knowledge allows the viewers to learn things in a more organic way, like when Sir Raptor talked a bit about the Hemlock family in the first episode, giving the viewers some info on them. The next major character the story focuses on is Pyrocythe, the oldest of the Hemlock siblings. He's the kindest of them and next in line to take over his father's company. He isn't quick to anger and is mostly laid back, which is shown when he caught Ivory and Sir Raptor leaving the wine storage. His personal maid was Mysticat, which he cared for dearly. You know what happens next. Pyro? Just wanted to let you know. I'm making the new gal your maid. Was it something I said? Pyro's arc mostly deals with his father and the loss of his mate that he cared dearly for in this story, as you see him having an issue with his dad often and being depressed about the death whenever there isn't anything to take his mind off of it, like when talking with Ivory or doing business stuff. He doesn't like his father because of how heartless he is or how little he seems to care. Like who goes to their son and bluntly tells them that you're replacing someone who they cared dearly for. days after they died. That is why I'm glad he didn't think ill of Ivory or take things out on her because of his father's insensitivity. If anything, he seems to enjoy her company, especially the small talk they have. He even had her help him to and from his business meeting with, "Is that Tommy in it?"
I wrote it on my head, I love lesbians!
Pyro in the later episodes focuses more on dealing with the loss of Mysticat, which I don't see anything else to note relating to that currently. With his dad, the relationship seems to be strained, especially since Pyro works for his company, and the insensitivity Zombie seems to have to the situation Pyro's making it worse. Based on what Pyro said in episode 2 and 4, it's implied that his father doesn't think he is ready to take over the company, and they have disagreements on how to run it. The disagreement is more obvious with Pyro staying with the company just so he could take over and run it better when Zombie passes. Unrelated to his arc, but a detail that I don't really know much about, is the fact that he vomits a few times, but I can't tell if he's ill or overstressed or something. So if any of y'all have a theory or know anything, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, Ivory did a great job of writing him where you feel sympathy for him and what he's gone through, especially in episode 5 and 6 in my opinion. Now the antagonist of the story thus far, Detective Prometheus. At the start, like I said already, he became suspicious of Ivory due to how emotionless she seemed and the timing of her arrival. He does keep popping up in future episodes randomly appearing at this date, with my favorite detail is of him in the background where you don't notice him on the first watch through. He usually just goes and asks Ivory some questions, but it is more aggressive each time till Ivory feels anxious enough to try and escape him. Since he can't approach Ivory, he tried asking Moo Hemlock about suspicious activity to try to see if there's anything he could figure out about Ivory. He didn't get anything out of her though, so he got Ivory isolated to question by bringing in all of the maids for questioning in episode 6. This is when he tried his best to get her to admit to the crime.
Are you going to cooperate?
You showed up the day before there was a murder, and you can't tell me crap about yourself. So tell me, why shouldn't I believe it was you? I was sorting mail with Mr. Pierce. You win this round. I'll give you a real round. From his perspective, there isn't any way that it isn't Ivory, since as soon as she showed up, someone died. She doesn't seem to be emotionally affected by the death, not even shocked, and she seems to be making things up or withholding information. This is the reason why he kept showing up at the mansion. He wants to try to catch Ivory in the act or find out what she is hiding. He found Ivory more and more suspicious the more he confronted her, like when he found her looking towards the forest with a shovel that she said was for a coworker for cobwebs, and when she was grabbing something for Moo and suddenly fled when Prometheus jump scared her. Although I don't know what he expected she'd do. Anyone would probably want to leave when they suddenly see a cop illegally in their home. Oh. Do you have a warrant? And do you have life insurance? Prometheus just needs motive, but didn't get what he wanted when he got the maids to go to the station for questioning. I really wonder what he's going to do next, since he is pretty interesting, at least to me. He is most likely gonna try to take her to court, since there isn't any way he went to the mansion just to question her. Despite Pyro having pretty good reasons to dislike his father, I can't help but notice that he is trying. Of course, he's not doing a good job of it, and if what Pyro said is anything to go off of, Zombie isn't the best father, with always being busy with work and doesn't seem to understand his kids' emotional needs, which is especially shown with Pyro, but also with V seemingly being neglected. But despite that, it seems more that he has a hard time understanding and dealing with emotion. From his perspective, he could be thinking that he is watching out for his kids, like not letting V go out on his own because he's worried he'll get in trouble, or giving Pyro a new maid so someone could take care of him while he's going through the death of Mysticat. He even stopped by Pyro's room when he heard crying, but then tried talking to him like he probably should have, because of his mindset or not knowing what to do got him to think best to leave him alone. So it'll be interesting to see if he has an arc too instead of just seeing Pyro's situation. I hope we get to see more of Zombie and why he is the way he is, especially since Mrs. Hemlock seems to have passed away, and I wonder if that broke him or maybe caused him to drown himself in work to distract or numb his mind. I also would like to see Zombie and Pyro's relationship to be expanded, maybe in a way that expands the Hemlocks overall, but that would depend on the scope Ivory has in mind for the series, since that could be an episode or two, and I don't know how many more episodes are planned. Sir Raptor is one of my favorite characters, mostly because of how he is introduced. He's a yapper, and the humor with his interactions is pretty good. He grew up on a farm and is pretty friendly. He and Ivory became roommates and he taught her how to do her job. He misses his family, and I think that flower pendant he wore to the funeral is from one of them. Him and Ivory became good friends. In the later episodes, they sneak onto the roof to talk and look at the night sky. He is a pretty simple character currently, but does a great job of being a supporting character. V is another supporting character, although a more minor one, and is the youngest of the Hemlocks. He is very interested in redstone and how it works, always tinkering with it and making things. V also seems to be neglected since he is the only one without a personal servant, and he isn't allowed to go out on his own. This is expressed with his room not really being kept well, although that could be partly due to him not wanting anyone to touch his stuff. He befriended Ivory after failing to blackmail her to take him to town. That whole scene just makes you feel a little bad for V, since it seems like people usually avoid him, making him desperate for attention, hence trying to blackmail people to do things even if it doesn't work. V also brought Ivory to a shed to blow up with a pipe bomb.
You see that old shed out there?
Yes, sir.
I want to blow it up.
Pardon?
I'm building a pipe bomb.
That's my favorite joke so far. To me, V does a great job of adding more variety to the series without feeling unnecessary. This guy interests me the most. He's a businessman that went to the WhitePine estate to do business and is temporarily staying there. He's an ex-Christian and from a stricter family, but so far I don't think that is important to the story, just the character's background. He seems to like Lizzie Hemlock since he's talked to her the most, at least on screen. The reason I'm intrigued is because I started to wonder, why is he here? What is his role in the story? Especially since some of his dialogue seems off to me. Especially in the scene where he and Lizzie are talking in the hallway. If I had to do a theory video, it would be on him and his steel. We are definitely going to see more of him, and I'm excited to see what his character does. So far, a great cast of characters. They are written pretty well, and I didn't feel like one was forced into an episode. They were also played by different creators, which is pretty obvious, usually having the same name and similar skins. Since the creators do have experience roleplaying, the acting is actually pretty good, and the delivery of dialogue allows us to feel emotion without the need of music to guide the audience. The thing that makes this more evolutionary is giving focus or at least more depth to the other characters without them needing to be a leading part of the story. So instead of everything revolving around Ivory or Pyro, we instead see how others are affected or their reasons for doing things. A great example is V, since instead of being an annoying kid causing mischief or attention, he is introduced as someone that would blackmail someone to do things with him, but only because he is usually neglected, which is why he dropped it when Ivory said she'll do things with him because she wants to. Overall, amazing writing, especially when juggling this many character dynamics. This is where I get geeky. For those who don't know, I'm currently majoring in film, so when I first saw WhitePine, I thought it was super cool how things were utilized. The cinematography, the sound design, the music. It's all so good. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is the cinematography. The shots in this series range from great to even stunning. The camera shows all of the sets so well and takes advantage of the beauty of it all. Like when Ivory goes to the courtyard in the first episode, or the funeral in episode 5. My favorite shots are of the different forests when it's bright out because of the colors of the trees, and I just love nature scenes. Some of the other shots I love are of the town seen through the clouds, and even the ones of just the town in general. And some of the transitional shots I love are specifically the ones in the mansion, because the stills make it feel like a liminal space. The camera movement is also utilized very well. It's not just used to show the characters' reactions during dialogue, but also help the emotion scale of different scenes, sometimes even their perspectives. Of it be when the camera starts moving when Ivory feels anxious, wide shots at events like the funeral, or to emphasize the feeling like when the music leads the scene. Another trick used is the utilization of frame within a frame, which you see used in the hallways, for example, but have been used in several other shots. The mood also gets the sets with the color of the shots. Episode 2 is colored to be more gloomy, helping make things feel down since a murder just happened. While in episode 4, it is brighter since it's more focused on Ivory building positive relationships. I'm pretty sure a lot of the coloring is done with the shaders used, although I wouldn't be surprised if she did some of it in post-production. Also, the aspect ratio is just a cool and creative touch. Overall, super impressive and great job of utilizing the shaders and camera movements. Oh my goodness, the sound design is absolutely amazing. There's constant use of sound design throughout the whole thing, to the point that I wouldn't be surprised if even the Minecraft noises were added in post. There are simple things that get added that builds the environment even more, and it adds so much to the scene, immersing you even more into the environments. When the camera is outside, you hear light wind or the rustling of trees. When you're in a crowd, you hear background chatter. In the kitchen, you hear dishes clattering, and so on. I know these are obvious things, but there are some more subtle uses like a light humming or a clock ticking in the mansion, or more accompanying choice of the sound used for when the detective scared Ivory. Ivory TV also added things like reverb or muffling to voices relative to the room, the characters, and the cameras, and to each other. It's not anything crazy, but it's just done so well, and I just think it's so cool. The music is absolutely amazing in this series. As most of you know, music is used to do things like get you to think of a character or concept with a theme, or set the mood even. Most of the soundtrack is to set the mood or enhance it, but the most important use of the music is to convey emotion. Whenever WhitePine uses it to convey emotion, it feels more powerful and oftentimes controls the scene. The best example is when everyone is walking to the cathedral for the funeral service. It feels grand, fitting of an event like this, and it starts to pick up more as the group approaches the cathedral. Then when they go to the burial, the song starts quicker, but slows down as it progresses, yet it grows more powerful till Pyro speaks. After that, it continues but more sad and spaced as Mr. Cat gets buried. It's done so well, it makes you feel the size and weight of the scenes as the music grows and shrinks. A more creative use of music that controls the scene is in episodes 2 and 6. In episode 2, the music gradually picks up and starts to become cluttered over time, with piano and vocals making it feel anxious and almost suffocating. In episode 6, the music starts with the piano swinging in a speed, repeating the same notes for a while until it breaks into chaos and feels more out of control, like there is panic. Based on the comments and my judgment, these songs represent panic or anxiety attacks. Not just that, but they are trying to suppress the feelings with Witch Elm, the song from episode 2. Sounds like someone's trying to drown their thoughts and dissociate, almost like someone's trying to calm themselves down. And the breathing in the vocals emphasize that. On the other hand, Mulberry, the one from episode 6, Sounds like someone's trying to hold it in just for them to break down. These songs are really well designed, playing a huge part as to why I love WhitePine. The music is beautifully written, representing the different emotions from joy to anxiety to sadness. The best part is this is original music made by Ivory TV. That fact alone inspired me to try and learn music if this channel works out. The way the music sounds and how it is utilized in the series is just so inspiring, especially to creatives. These parts of production are what's made me love WhitePine and want to make a video on it. The utilization of the modded tools and shaders in the series really show what you could get out of them. The shots are beautiful and dynamic when needed and usually have a professional look, especially in the funeral walk scenes. The music is also an amazing addition since you rarely find content like this with not just original music, but good music too. They go with the scenes so well, and when the focus is more on it, it feels like they were written with the intent for just that scene, rather than just someone trying to fill the void. I also haven't really seen much content with sound design, especially with this much detail. All of these things make engaging, high-quality scenes. Best utilization and skill I've seen so far for a Minecraft series. This series is truly an evolution, mostly due to the quality of the production. The map for the setting is stunning, especially for the shaders used. The cinematography is amazing and takes great advantage of flashback and replay. The characters are so far well written, with great interactions. The scenes are engaging because of the effort. I love the conversations between characters, the anxious moments with the detective, the scenes with the music guiding or controlling it, and all of the details in it like the environmental sounds and the design of the sets. The episode that I think best demonstrates what WhitePine does well is episode 4. In the episode, we see Ivory build up her relations with Pyro and V. Originally, Pyro wasn't wanting a new servant, but in this episode, we see how he has warmed up to her with their conversations to and from Pyro's meeting. While with V, Ivory takes him to town where they explore the place. I love this scene since it's all visual with a happy song guiding the scene, showing them just having a great time. The scene ends with V bringing Ivory to the field to explain his next project. The detective is also in this episode, being hidden in the first half, then confronting Ivory after she came back from town, showing his persistence and Ivory's anxiety. It then ends off with one of the side characters, Lop, helping Ivory calm down from being overwhelmed. The episode also uses a variety of sets, specifically the WhitePine estate, the town, and a restaurant. They all show off the details like people in the background working, walking, or eating, or the personalities shown through the bedrooms used. Also, the sound design is great here, with it being utilized differently when Ivory encounters the detective. Episode 4 does a great job of showing off all the care and effort put into the series, making it one of my favorites. Originally, I was going to make a video just on the potential future of Minecraft content. But after watching the first episode, I made this video talking about WhitePine to try to show how scripted content is evolving. Before, I've only seen stuff like this as roleplay mostly, because the quality of it was just that, roleplaying. Of course, it evolved over the years where people started to make them more cinematic, with some of Quackity's videos being great examples. But WhitePine is the next major step as it has left the roleplay category and entered straight up filmmaking. It's even inspired some to create their own projects, while you see others trying to make their own thing when WhitePine released. Heck, I've been wanting to do something of this quality and size for a year or two now. I hope this video helps not to just show how impressive WhitePine is as a YouTube series, but also bring attention to what future projects from creators could be, and I hope I could be one of them if this channel works out. Before the video ends, I really want to talk about episode 7, and I really wish I was able to record it before I had to go to work that day, because I was just so happy and giddy because I could tell the quality of the video has jumped so much, which, yes, that means we got more oversized bread, guys. Come on, we got it twice now. We got it twice in this episode. Let's go! In all seriousness, though, the quality has really jumped from pretty much in all areas. Like the cinematography of the town shows how it's improved. The characters are being developed even further, especially the Hemlocks this episode. I'm glad they're doing that because they really need to expand on that, because that's one of the areas I was most interested in, especially with Zombie and his deal. Like this episode, you could really tell that he is trying. It's not that he's a terrible person. It's just that he's like, something's broken in him. Like, he was oblivious to everything that's been happening apparently, which, you know, appears to be odd, but at the same time, it's like, for all you know, maybe it's age gain to him, or he hasn't really fully processed other things because he's so drowned in work of it's because of him trying to do that intentionally or not. And even the music and sound design has also improved, with them sort of like weaving into one at some parts, especially with the part where the detective starts beating Ivory to get a confession out here. And yeah, they sort of done this with other episodes, but like this is like really done specifically for the sound design, and it's quite incredible actually, and I rarely get to see stuff like that in videos on YouTube. Back to the characters, that's like really the highlight of this episode for me, outside of the music of course, since when you watch it, you could tell there's a huge jump in the music. Anyways, back to the characters. We expand more on Concha and his character, specifically when he's talking with Lizzie about like pay and such, and then Lizzie tries to give him a raise, and then that like both worked and backfired at the same time, because Zombie gave him a raise because, you know, his daughter asked him to, but at the same time, he turned to him saying like, hey, if you do that again, I'm gonna straight up fire you. Which, you know, fair, but at the same time, that's a bit drastic. Then we got all of the Hemlocks slowly starting to get pissed, especially Lizzie and Pyroscythe, specifically with their own father, of course, since, you know, that's a common theme in why the Hemlocks aren't happy. Lizzie just straight up doesn't like her father just because of the things she heard, like say the company can't unionize, as well as just little things like her dad saying like, roll down your sleeves. It's not ladylike to have them rolled up, even though it's just like, as you can see on the skin, it's only not covering the forearm. And then with Pyro, it seems like it's a mixture of Zombie's handling of the whole situation with the dead maid of Mysticat, as well as just the fact that despite Pyro being part of the company and such, he still rather do deals with other businessmen like Zolister, even though, you know, Pyro's right there and has been handling a lot of things, but, you know, as has been mentioned in a previous episode, Zombie doesn't think he's able to handle it, as if he's like too young or something like that, which feels like it's a common theme that's more noticeable in this episode, is that Zombie is just like, despite them all saying like, we're not kids, Zombie even tells V directly, but you're my kid. Basically, he doesn't view them as like adults yet, or at least teenagers. He views them as just like still as kids, just kids. So in Zombie's eyes, it seems like that he just is trying to take care of the kids or trying to keep them out of trouble, like what he thinks V would be doing. Since he's the youngest, he's treated the most like a kid, rather than just being like, oh yeah, you're a teenager now, you could do things on your own to a degree. Instead, he's like, hey, watch him, make sure he doesn't get in trouble, and that he doesn't wander too far, like he is just still like a little kid, even though obviously he's not. It's almost like ever since his wife died, either he's drowned himself so much in work that he can't even recognize or comprehend that his kids have grown up and changed, which would explain why he was completely oblivious to the detective being in the manor at all, or what has been happening. Like, he knew the doctor's there, probably because he saw him, but not really because he knew what happened. And then there's Ivory. About a third way through the episode, Raptor tells Ivory about how the detective went to the manor looking for her, and then started fear-mongering by telling all the staff to not trust her, saying things like, don't go alone with her, do not listen to her when she says to follow her into a place, just her and you. Stuff like that, basically saying that like, do not trust her, she's a suspect. Which of course Raptor didn't believe because, you know, he's always with Ivory whenever she's not busy. And this starts going to her head. She starts feeling like people are watching her. She says she was already feeling it, but in this episode you really get to see it start getting to her, which caused Raptor to get concerned and get Clown Pierce's attention. So Clown Pierce gathers all of the staff, explains the situation, saying, hey, still treat her like a human. If we were truly suspected of a crime, they've already had everyone in custody, but that's not the case. So treat everyone like a human. No one did anything, basically clarifying that like, just because the detective says so, that he has suspicions, doesn't automatically mean that he's right. Also, this episode is when there was a banquet that happened, which means everyone is out of the mansion except Pyro stayed, Ivory, Ross, and Div. because of the lack of people, no one really saw when Ivory got into the detective's car, except Ross did, but I'll cover that later. Anyways, Ivory gets told by the detective, hey, we need to take you in for questioning, and because, you know, he's a police, she didn't really question it. She hesitated at first, but she eventually got into the car, and the detective brought her into the forest and started trying to beat a confession out of her, which is one of the best scenes I've seen, especially right after the first punch to the face where it goes black and starts playing off the music while showing the inside of the manor, and then her walking back to the mansion. Like, oh my gosh, it's done so freaking well. Ivory has this one mod that she used a couple of times to add animations, and this is the best utilization I've seen of it. If it's just as small as the detective putting on gloves or just, you know, expressing his frustrations and doing an actual punch, and then Ivory just limping back. Oh, it's so freaking good. And then of course after that the doctor came over, gave Ivory some medical attention, and something that really set me off was the fact that, like, Ross, we see specifically that Ross saw Ivory get in the detective's car and leave, and yet when Pyro summoned them, they both came over to Pyro's room, and Ross says like, no, I didn't see anything, Div just told me everything, as if he never heard or saw anything happen or anything suspicious happening before then, and yet we specifically saw him to do it. So I feel like he has some sort of role in this. I just don't know what it would be. It would make sense though, since he's usually at the gate. No one's gonna be there monitoring him, so no one will know if anyone came to the gate that's doing anything malicious or suspicious, like says, hey, I'm gonna pay you if you do this thing, or if you just hush up or something like that. We have no idea. And then, like, you know, Zolister is not in this episode. He's only mentioned to be touring another factory or something like that with zombies. So it's like, don't really have anything else with him other than just some suspicion, at least from me. Anyways, yeah, that's the video. I just want to talk about this episode, even though it's not scripted and maybe not well structured. Man, you could truly do anything in Minecraft. Anyways, if you liked the video, please do subscribe, as I do plan on making more videos like this. And you saw nothing.